Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are from. I want to walk you through the material. My stuff is here for the build in the office and wiring up that office in the garage. And I have everything I need, so I want to walk you through the materials that I'm going to use, because as soon as I walk you through those materials, I can actually put those materials to use because they're not doing me any good here. So let me go ahead, walk you through what I can, and then let's go run some Ethernet. Let's go. All right, we're wiring up the garage and we're wiring up the office. What are we gonna need? First thing on the list, a big box of Cat6 cable. So Cat6 is what I'm going with. I'll do a video on different cable decisions, different properties, and why I chose to go with Cat6. But I got 500 feet here from Monoprice, and this is gonna be great. So this is what we're gonna use to run in the garage. Now, how are we gonna run it? Well, to get through everywhere we need to be, we've got 1" and 1/2" screws, our trusty drill. That's also on the list. So that's going to help us get it through the rafters where it needs to go. Now, when it is where it needs to go, we are going to drop it into either a 1-gang or, in one case, a 2-gang low voltage box, right? So these are going to go on the studs. So we need some low voltage gangs. Half the battle. Now we got to keep our cabling clean. So what are we going to do for that? Well, I've got a couple of things. Big box, big tube of zip ties. This is going to be good for keeping all the bundles of cables in place. Where there's not a bundle of cables, or they need to be more secure, I have some little clamps here. I'll show you a picture of what they look like. But basically, these will help us affix the cable to the studs. So that's going to keep it nice and clean with the cables. So great. Now we've got a means to wire it. We have the material to wire it. We have a way to keep it clean. What's next? Well, in my single gang boxes, this is for later, this is for finishing, but I am going to terminate the cables with RJ45 Cat6 jacks. So to do that, we're going to need trusty pliers and our crimpers. So that's going to get us going for terminating the cables. And why am I terminating them? Because I'm not using a punch down jack. I am actually going to use, for better or worse, a female to female RJ45 keystone jack. And so that's going to let me terminate it, plug it into the other side, you know, obviously to connect it to the house, and it'll snap right in place. So keystone jacks are going to go on the wall. I also do have on the 2-gang, I have a nested pass-through, right? So this is what's going to get the fiber and the coax in and out of the network cabinet. So that is for everything. I think at this point we have everything. When you're going to run the cables, you want to make sure that they are good. So having a cable tester is going to be really useful for knowing whether or not your cables are doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they're wired up, and that they're going to perform once you start connecting devices to them. So that pretty much covers everything that we need for our build in the office and the garage. And so I'll walk you through what that's going to look like. I will also walk you through the cable decisions that I made. All this material is going to handle getting the network set up in the building. So the access points, cameras, cable drops, everything is going to be handled with this. But how do we get the internet from here to there? That's the big part of the project that will help that. Here is the OM3 Multimode 50-meter fiber optic cable. This is going to run from the house out to the garage through a conduit. And so this is an LC connector type. I'll go into that when I go over cables. But this right here is what's going to run between the buildings. In order to use that, I actually have a switch in here, and I just got a second switch for the garage. This is the Steam Emo 5-port PoE switch. And that's great, right? The PoE switch part is fine. It's going to power the access points. It's going to power the cameras. Really, really affordable unit. But what we can do with this is that it has an SFP port. And so this SFP port combined with some SFP adapters. I'll go over this in a little bit more detail, but that's going to let me plug in the media that I want, aka the fiber, into the switch. So right here are the SFP modules. And so this is what the cable is going to connect into. And then this module can go right in here. And that is how I'm going to get fiber between the two buildings and get it on the network. So I'll do a walkthrough of this in a little bit more detail, but this is essentially the hardware that I'm going to use when I walk you guys through the actual install on this build. So just wanted to show it. Now that I've shown it, I can go use it. If you like what you're seeing and you want to see more about this project, hit subscribe. It really does help. And I appreciate you being here, and I'll catch you in the next video.